want to get your feedback, right? Because we did this exercise together.
Yep.
And I just want to know before I dive into it with everybody else. Obviously, it's all about confidence, but give me some feedback. Was it good? Was it not? Was it helpful? Was it your common Coach Joe woo-woo nonsense, or was it actually like practical?
It was it was more than practical because it was just like the nice little kick in the ass that I needed. Because obviously I've been lacking a lot of self confidence, so this exercise is really good.
It's
It
very
will open it up. It goes deep.
Yeah, it goes deep. It goes deep. Not too crazy, right?
Mm-mm,
But deep
mm-mm.
enough where you can just get clarity. Okay. So,
Yep.
with that being said, we're going to dive right into it right now because I want you guys to be engaged with this one, right? Talking, right? It's nothing where it's going to be a step outside of your comfort zone. I'm not going to be asking you guys any kind of crazy questions or anything like that. But once again, it's going to be very, very impactful. Okay. So, for starters, okay. I asked you guys this last time on Wednesday when we did the breakout groups. Okay. What does confidence mean to you? Okay. And I just want to get some people engaging with just that one. So let's go to Chad, let's go to Sherry, and then let's go with Jeff Coons. Okay. So, Chad, what does confidence mean for you? And remember, guys, there is no right answer or wrong answer in this. Okay.
Confidence to me would be just uh, like a centered belief in self.
Mm, I like that. I like that.
Confidence to me is being able to like block out the noise of anyone else. Like you don't care what they think, say, nothing. All that matters is your bubble and nothing can penetrate it.
I love it. I love it. And Jeff Coons, what does confidence mean to you?
Knowing that regardless of what the circumstance or situation around me is, that I can succeed.
Oh, I like that. Good answers, guys. Really good ones. Bill, you just joined in. Jason, you guys just joined in. Grab a pen and paper. This is recording. This is going to be a very, very good one, all about confidence. Some of the questions that I'm going to have you guys write out is think in the past, right? When was 3 times in your life you felt the most confident? Okay. 3 times in your life you felt the most confident. Brian, let me ask you, when was just 3 times in your life you felt the most confident?
All right. So the first one was back in September when I did my first powerlifting event. Um, I think I felt the most confident when I was training for the event.
Okay.
Um, then passing or getting through dental school, and then we had talked about the funny story about passing my driver's test.
Yeah. Yeah. We might bring that back to surface if that's okay.
I got one, and it was more recent. It was last year when I actually hit 307 pounds. I looked in the mirror and I was actually happy with myself for once in a very long time, if ever.
I like that. I like that. So you got one down. So keep on doing this exercise. Get two more. Okay. Hannah, let's go to you, right? And you can pick up from Jody. So give me at least two things that you felt the most confident.
Okay, one was my last year teaching. I just felt I was kind of in my groove. Um, Two was our wedding day, and
Got that one too.
three is leading groups of students on trips globally.
I love that. I love that. And then Bill, let's go to you last. 3 times in your life you felt the most confident.
So one, I work for an insurance company, and at one point in early 2020 or 2019, 2020, we were responsible for the number one project in the company, and we were able to finish that on time with a high degree of quality as COVID hit.
Hmm.
So right near the end of the project is when COVID started, and we all had to be remote. So we all were able to shift our work plans and our work methodology, yet still got the project out on time with high quality. So when that was done, we felt pretty good about ourselves. So
Okay.
that's one.
Okay. What's the other two?
Second one was when I was classified as a diabetic, getting that phone call from my doctor after after being on the program for, I don't know, 12, 14 weeks, and him declaring me that he's never seen diabetes numbers dropped like they did for me. So hanging up that phone call, I was
Yeah.
feeling pretty good about myself.
Yeah.
Um, and then the third one's kind of weird. Um, the third one was when I was coming home from the last Heartletics retreat. Um, I am intensely private, and I don't like to be around people. Um, and just the fact that coming home from that and making the decision to go and being part of that weekend, coming home, I thought, all right, well, maybe we'll start trying some new things here, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of different and weird.
Yeah. It was a step outside of your comfort zone and you were able to do it, you know?
Yeah.
This is good, guys. So, and some of you guys already answered this, but write it down if you haven't already, okay? This is the next segment for you guys. What made you feel confident, right? In those midst of those three things that you mentioned, like why did the confidence happen, right? So like Jody kind of mentioned that, hey, he looked in the mirror and he felt proud of himself, right? So that's a good sign, right? Bill mentioned about how with work, for example, they were on this project, COVID happened to hit, and last minute they were able to get the project done, and it was like the best project within the company, right? So think about like in terms of that, BP, you mentioned about obviously the powerlifting. And so it was the training, it was the practicing, you were feeling strong, right? Looking better, the visualization as well that we kind of talked about. Okay. So spend a few minutes, right? Not too long. Just give a little segment, right? So if your Chad was, hey, I look good on my wedding day, I felt the most confident. Why? Right? Dot, dot, dot. Just spend a few seconds, guys, doing that. So let's get Jeff Koons. Let's get Sherry. Let's get Chad. We'll just go with you guys. Okay. So what was the thing, right? You don't need to say like in terms of, when you felt the most confident, but why you felt the most confident, like what kind of like led up to that, I guess, what helped you feel the most confident, I should say, is a better question. Okay. So Jeff Koons, if you don't mind, out of one of those three things, right? Like what has helped you felt the most confident in the midst of the three things that you wrote down?
So I only had two because I'm kind of in the middle of work junk right now too. But one of them was going back to school after I was an adult and getting a degree in IT and doing that with a 4.0 GPA, and the other one was asking my wife to marry me and stuff like that. So kind of the first one, I went into it knowing that I was pretty determined to do it, and I'm pretty intelligent to be able to do it, and I worked a lot of hours and also did full-time school on top of that, and it was just kind of I'm doing this whether the search situation was working or not. And as far as my wife, and I knew the day that I met her, God told me I was going to marry her. And so I had that as a confidence saying, okay, yeah, I mean, this is what's going to happen. And I didn't have a question in my heart about it. So,
Yeah. Okay. And when you dropped down on one knee, did you feel nervous a little bit or did you feel like
nope,
confident?
definitely confident.
I love it. I love it. Sherry, let's go to you next. So, out of like, you can say as much as you want, but out of at least one of those, times in your life where you felt the most confident, why did you feel the most confident or what helped you feel the most confident or what led to that?
So I bake. I make macarons and I sell them.
Yeah.
And it's not silly, but like just the happiness that I know, first of all, because they're not easy to make, and that people really enjoy them. Like I get so many compliments on them and stuff, and it just makes me it's just comes down to happiness, I have when Mike and I got married, like I was confident that day because I was happy and I knew it. And it's those situations when I know that I'm happy, it's just like world doesn't matter. It's just kind of like me and him or me and my baking, things like that.
I love that. We're going to touch base on that. I want clarity though. Um, Macarons, are those macaroons?
No, a macaroon is coconut is a coconut cookie.
Yeah.
A macaron is like the French sandwich pastry cookie thing.
Okay.
So they're delicate, and they have there's a whole thing with making them. So it does it, even watching like baking shows when bakers even call them macaroons, it bothers me.
So I know because you immediately said no.
Yeah.
I guess I triggered you, and I didn't mean to.
No.
So I just want clarity, right? Those are the little cookies that like sometimes they're the different colors, or is
Yeah.
that those are macarons?
Uh-huh. Macarons are the different colors. Macaroons, I think, are usually like kind of tan because it's like toasted coconut.
Okay. My son loves macarons then. I was saying
Oh,
the longest. Yeah, loves it. Okay. So send me over some details, right? In terms of like, hey, we can make this for you. I'll gladly buy them off you, right? Like, I want to help you guys out because my son's gonna enjoy them, okay?
yeah, anytime.
And we're gonna dive into that here in a little bit. But let's go to Chad last. Okay. So Chad, out of one of those areas in your life where you felt the most confident, like why did it make you feel the most confident, or what has helped you feel the most confident in that?
I would go with the day Hannah and I got married, and it's because you're starting life together. You're starting that adventure together. Kind of like Sherry just said, it's just you. The two of you, not against the world, but stepping out into the world and that adventure together.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's not. I wouldn't say that it goes with the other ones, but my other two are grouped together because they were both, one was graduating high school and one was graduating basic training for the military. And it's just that sense of accomplishment of setting one with my family. I was the only one that actually technically graduated high school.
Mhm.
Everybody else, got like GEDs later in life. So that was like a kind of a big thing in my family. So
Yeah.
yeah, that sense of accomplishment.
I love that. I love that. So I want you guys to think, okay? And everybody can unmute themselves. And then I'm going to go to the macrons here in a little bit because it's going to resonate with Sherry and it's going to also resonate with all you guys. And if it doesn't, then I got another analogy that's really going to resonate with you guys. And BP is going to give me permission to tell a funny story about that one, right? Okay. So before we get to Sherry, right, the macrons, I want you guys just to think, okay? There's typically an overlapping theme when it comes to building this confidence. And what I was able to identify, it's typically like two things, okay? Two things. But I want to hear from you guys first, okay? BP, no spilling the beans, because obviously you know this, okay? What do you guys think is like the driving force for success when it comes to building confidence? Is it Bill?
Fear of failure.
Wow, solid. That's one. That's one. Okay. There's another one though.
Hey, I got the first one.
You
Everybody else
got
has
it. Great. I was very impressed. So let's use the macrons now. Okay. So think about Sherry. Sherry, unmute yourself if you don't mind. The very first time when you were making macrons, um, you know, did it go your way? Did it not? Like, what happened?
So you they have to be mixed a specific way. They have to be mixed to a certain texture even. You have to get meringue. You have to have it as a stiff meringue. You can't have it too wet. You can't have it too dry. It can't be bumpy. They have to cook for a specific. So like I think the first time I made them, they were maybe sideways, like they didn't bake evenly or they were like not filled or something. I mean, it took me a year, I think, before I finally like got it to the point where now I have no issues.
I love it because you just said it, and Jason put in the chat also, guys, and it's all about this showing up, or you can say practice. Like when BP talked about his powerlifting, he was practicing for it. He was showing up, right? With you, Sherry, with the macrons, you're practicing, right? You said it took over a year before you finally got it down, but you didn't let it discourage you. You didn't give up. You had the repetition, right? As what Jason put in the chat here, okay? So as we can see here, it's the fear, right? Or excuse me, it's overcoming the fear of failure, Okay, that's the first thing. And the second one is literally just showing up, putting in the reps, guys. Okay. Now, BP, do you mind if I tell this story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Who here knows how to ride a bike? Raise your hand. Okay, perfect. Did you guys know how to ride a bike at, let's say, 4 years old? Not really, maybe. Okay. What about riding a bike with the training wheels? Has anybody once rode a bike in the training wheels back in the day? Okay. I have a really good story. Okay. And BP gave me permission. Okay. So BP mentioned that, hey, he feels really confident on a bike right now. Okay. But back in the day, he didn't. He felt really confident with his training wheels. But one of these days, right, or one of the days back in the day, right, his brothers took him up to this big hill, right, that was in front of his house. Okay. Took off his training wheels and literally pushed BP down the hill. Okay. He was going fast, fast. His feet was pedaling, all that stuff. His parents were in the front yard. And all of a sudden, he took a little sideways turn and boom, smacked his mailbox, right? Head on. Okay. Now, BP could have let that define him and say, well, screw this, right? Like, I'm never riding a bike again. He didn't, though. But also keep in mind, BP did not just say, oh man, like I, I, I can do this again, right? And then immediately go back to the top of the hill and just try it all over again. No, right? BP went back to the basics, the training wheels, right? To what? Rebuild his confidence, gain some momentum to where eventually he can take the training wheels off. He can ride that bike. Fast forward, right, to where now he's 57. He can ride that bike with ease, with confidence, no training wheels, right? And with most of you guys, it's the same story when it comes to riding a bike. But yet, on our health and fitness journeys, we somehow lose the confidence within ourselves of just showing up, of overcoming the fear, overcoming the challenges. And then we kind of fall off track and we forget, right, to start slow. We forget to start small. We forget to start building up small little momentum to help us regain our confidence to get us back on track. I don't know about you guys, and maybe you guys can show of hands and just raise this, but has any time in your life you were on a plan or a diet or a training routine or workout regimen where you were doing everything right, you were crushing it, okay? And then all of a sudden you got hit with a challenge. That could have been stress, that could have been work, that could have been injury, anything like that. But regardless, you fell off track. And then you try to go right back to where you first were, right? When you were absolutely crushing it, right? You try to go right back to the top of the hill. You didn't go back to the training wheels, didn't go back to the basics, and it didn't really work out the best for you. And then you lost your encouragement, right? You felt discouraged afterwards because it's like, man, it's so hard to get right back to where I was. Why should I even redo this again? And the next thing you know, it's a slippery slope going downwards, and we fall off track, and those days turn into weeks, turn into months. Has that ever happened to you guys? It happens to all of us. Okay. Until we do one thing, right? And that's what we're going to dive into on today's call, which is once again helping you guys build confidence. But you're going to see this as a lot to do with mental confidence as well. But sometimes you guys just need little analogies, like with that riding the bike, that's going to help you once again say things like, man, that makes a lot of sense. Let's do this the next time I fall off track, where instead of me trying to go back to the gym or do XYZ and focus on all these habits, why don't I start off small with just eating more protein? Why don't I start off small with just like sharing, in the community group, and that's it, just being a little bit more engaged. So, what I want you guys to do is just think about this, okay? When it comes to building confidence, you're going to always in life build confidence through overcoming challenges first. You never build confidence inside of your comfort zone. Okay. And you got to understand that before we actually dive into some of these practices here. Okay. But what typically happens anytime we're stepping outside of our comfort zone? Okay. Let's go BP, right? Let's just use you, for example, with the driving license or getting your driver's license. Okay. If you don't mind, why don't you tell that story? Because that's actually going to be a good thing to talk about when it comes to stepping outside of our comfort zone and once again, overcoming our challenges.
Okay. So I was nervous about getting my driver's license. So my dad tried to teach me how to drive. And of course, he made me drive a stick shift. And my dad is an ex-Marine, so he's very short-tempered. I think we got through like three driving lessons before he was about to hit me. So he gave up on me and he threw me the keys and told me just to drive around the neighborhood to practice. So it came to the point where I was ready to take my test, and I failed immediately because I passed a school bus with the flashing lights. So my dad was very disappointed. I waited 30 days, took the test again, failed for some unknown reason. I can't remember why. And then they told me if you fail another time, then you're going to have to wait 6 months. So the stress was on. So I keep practicing, driving around the neighborhood, doing the things. And so it was my third time to pass or to take the test, and I barely passed. And the driving instructor said, if it was up to me, I would not give you your driver's license, but here you go. You barely made it. So I was just, that was like a really good day of mine.
Yeah. So now, right? So keep yourself unmuted, BP. So now let me ask you this, right? And this is going to be a little recap from our mindset call earlier, okay?
Mhm.
What did you get to enjoy getting your license? Maybe going to the movies, going out to eat, hanging out with your friends. Remember what you said specifically?
Yeah, opened up the world.
It
It was a
opened
whole
up the
different
world.
world.
It gave you freedom, right? Most
Yeah.
of you guys can relate to that, okay? Now, right? Let's just say BP lost his confidence because of maybe his dad getting upset, or maybe the first time he failed at trying to get his driver's license, he just said, screw this, I ain't doing this anymore, right? Think about that, right? Like all those experiences that he got to do going out, with his friends, the world opening up, right? Like all these things that it was great that he got to experience, he doesn't really get to experience anymore. Okay. So I want you guys to think about, because there's always going to be what's called a risk to reward ratio. But sometimes in our lives, we can look back and say, man, these challenges, is this actually a blessing in disguise? And most often than not, they are. Now, I get it. If you're going through a stressful time right now in your life, adversity, challenges, you're going to be looking at it as, God, why is this happening to me? But I encourage you guys, flip the switch, right? Because most of the time, it's always happening for you. Now, I'm sure plenty of times in your life when you overcame a challenge, looking back at it, probably that challenge has been a blessing in disguise. I know with me personally, when I was 22 years old, I wanted to commit suicide. Going through that, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. That sucked. Looking back at it, I'm so grateful that happened to me. It was happening for me because it brought me into who the person I am today, right? It's turned out to be a huge blessing in disguise. And so these are the things that we got to remind ourselves, especially when it comes to awareness, to helping us see that, hey, sometimes these challenges that we face with, and maybe it's, going out to eat, maybe it's peer pressure, maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's an addiction, maybe it's a challenge, maybe it's an injury, stress with the relationships, stress with finances, anything like that. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. And even though we can't see it because we're crawling through the trenches right now, we have to have faith. We have to have trust that at the end of the day, it's something that's actually happening for us because we can level up. We can start looking at it, right, as the glass being half full rather than half empty. And that's once again going to help give us the confidence to one day look back and say, man, I'm really glad that actually happened to me. Because every time you're going through a challenge in your life, I want you to just pause and just say, is this a challenge or is this actually an opportunity for me to grow? It might be you growing physically, like going to the gym, going for a PR. You're scared. It's a heavy bench press, right? But you know what? Hey, even if I fail at it, I at least made the attempt, right? I'm still growing. You got a hardcore workout that you just pushed through, right? Bill, for example, when he first started doing some of these bodyweight workouts, the new ones, they're hard. They're tough. Jeff, you got that coming up on Monday. Good luck, buddy. It's tough, right? You're going to hate it. But guess what? Perseverance, you continue to show up, repetition that Jason put in the chat, right? You overcome those challenges, you overcome those adversity. Guess what? You build more confidence. Hey, I've been through this before. I can do it again. It's once again, guys, knowing that when life throws you challenges, sometimes there might be storms mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? We have to look at it as an opportunity. We have to look at it as glass being half full rather than half empty, because this is a prime example for us to level up in life. This is why it's called growing pains, not growing joy, not growing happiness, growing pains. It's painful anytime you're leveling up, especially when you're going through the trenches. You're looking at it as like, why is it happening to me? But in reality, when you look back, it's happening for you. Just like how Steve Jobs always says, you can't connect the dots looking forward in life, but you can always connect the dots looking backwards in life. Okay. So I want you guys to just think, right? whether it's a current challenge that you're faced with right now, whether that's at work, home, health and fitness journey, anything like that, making macarons and you're spilling the egg white batter and all that stuff, and you're about to throw it out the door, whatever the case may be, right? Think about like any kind of challenge that you're faced with right now. And I want you guys to just pause and think, what is stopping you from taking that leap forward? What is stopping you from taking action? What is stopping you from moving forward? Chad, if you don't mind, can I use you for a quick little analogy?
Absolutely.
So, Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you and Hannah hopped back into the program, you were motivated from the get-go, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then something happened where, hey, we stopped showing up. We stopped doing the workouts. We stopped doing the check-ins. We stopped engaging. Correct?
It was exactly what you said. I thought I was jumping right back in where I was before, and it was like popping a balloon when that was not the same as before.
Yeah. So I want you to think now, okay? Because this is going to be key. And I want you guys to spend 5 minutes, really peel back the layers and really think about this. Because once you guys get this down, I tell you what, you're going to have the recipe for success, or at least the blueprint that's going to help you overcome these challenges. So, Chad, I want you to think, right? In the midst of that right there, when it's like, oh man, this sucks to get back on board. This is hard. Like, oh, I'm not seeing the best results. Maybe it's something going on with my thyroid, right? As we kind of talked about before. What was going through your head? What was going through your thoughts? What was those internal conversations that you were having with yourself? All right. So everybody think about that. Okay. When you're faced with the challenge, right? Whether it was in the past or maybe it's currently right now, what is going through your head when you're having those thoughts? Spend 5 minutes thinking about that. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What's going through your head? Okay.
So the first one is like financial struggles and everything that we've been going through for the last couple years. And I think a lot of it has to do with fear of stepping out and failing.
Mhm.
Like when I started my photography thing, it's kind of stalled. After November, I haven't had a single client. And so it's kind of it's a worry for me. I don't want to fail at that. And I've spent a lot of money to get started in it. Um, the other one is on my fitness, and I'm currently going through this right now. Just right now, I'm in a season the last probably couple months where work has been nuts, and like I've been working extra hours trying to get caught up, and I'm just stressed out, drained. So I had Monday and Tuesday off because I had a granddaughter born on Thursday, so I had it scheduled off, and so I was outside doing heavy yard work for 2 days, and today I'm finally starting able to be able to move around. I'm just that sore. Um, but it was, it's not, I don't have the consistency, and the discipline has been like gone.
So wrap all those up right into like a simple, like quick sentence, right? Like, what are your thoughts? All of those.
It's like, I'll just do better tomorrow or do better next week and put it off,
Okay.
basically.
Perfect. Perfect. Bill, let's go to you next. And then Hannah.
Yeah, like for me, the what I was feeling for each one of my examples was something different, right? Each time, um, while going through that work project and being nervous about not being able to get done on time, let alone dealing with the pandemic. Um, it's the thought process was to just keep moving forward, right? Um, get one thing done, hit a date, right? As an Jeff's an IT guy, right? He understands, hit a date, right? We have to hit a date.
Mhm.
um so it was just, there was no alternative, right? So at the time I was going through it, were we worried about not getting it done? Yeah. Did that have any other than an impetus to keep moving? That was the extent of the fear was almost a motivating factor at that point.
Okay. Let's
um
go to the third one with the diabetes, but let's
yeah
backtrack to when you were first told, hey, you have high A1C levels.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what I thought was when I heard that news is I thought I'm going out like my mom did.
so it's fear.
Yeah.
Fear.
And even while I was going through the program and I was losing some weight and I was losing some body fat, I didn't know how that translated to whether my diabetes numbers were improving or not. I mean, nobody can tell what their numbers are just by, sticking your finger in your ear, right? Um, so yeah, there was a fear of, is this making any difference? Yeah, I feel better, but in the grand scheme of things, right? I'm hoping not to be in a casket with no legs, right? And I don't know whether this is helping me or not.
Yeah, you're talking about when you're on the program?
Yeah.
Perfect. We're gonna come back to that because that's really, really good here. Hannah, if you had to, once again, any kind of challenge in your life, any kind of adversity, wrap it up into just a one quick sentence, like what was your initial thoughts, like in the midst of the storm, not past it, but going through it?
Well, it's interesting because I have different thoughts whether it's a health and fitness related storm or not. Because things that are not, I just am like Bill said, we're just going to take this one step and one day at a time, and we're going to get it done because there's no other option. So I'm just very much focus in on what we need to do, focus on, you know, whatever needs to happen and get it done.
Yeah.
I used to very much go into like failure mode in my mind, but I've done a lot of hard work so that, isn't as much there. But with my health, it's different because I don't know if it's just more like intensely personal or, you know,
Because if you
but
think about it, right, like in Jeff's case, he mentioned about the business. There is the fear of failure, not getting clients, the worry, the doubt, and then he talked
right.
about his health, right?
Yeah.
Bill, he talked about his work. There's colleagues, right? It takes some of the pressure off, right? You
Yeah.
mentioned about like if it's not health and relation, right? You looked right immediately to Chad, like, hey, we're gonna get this done. It's a we thing,
Yeah.
right? But when
Yeah.
it's always a me thing or an I thing, it's always more personal and it's a little bit different. But what are your thoughts when
Mhm.
it comes to the personal?
So then I start going like I can't get it right. Like I don't have the consistency that I need. And like this time, I told Chad, like right now I'm sitting here thinking, we paid you for a year and I've wasted half of the year of my time and my money. And I'm just like here on this happy little, yeah, whatever those things are called, up and down and up and down and up and down, because my
Yeah.
consistency
Yeah.
isn't. So then I start, even though I'm not like beating myself up about failure, I'm beating myself up about I'm not doing what I need to, you know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then it might also stem back to what I said earlier, where it's like, I just dug this rabbit hole so deep, I can't even climb out of it. What's the point? Right.
Yeah.
Or trying going from 0 to 100, and then it's not sustainable. We
Roller
felt,
coaster. Yes, thank you,
yeah,
Jeff.
just like Jeff said, roller coaster. Okay. So as you guys can see here, right, like it's these thoughts, right? And they're either good thoughts, bad thoughts. Good wolf, bad wolf, right? That's the stem of Heartletics. We talk about it often, okay? This isn't just a body transformation program, but it's a mind, body, soul, right? And let's go into now 3 key tips, right? And write this stuff down. Bill, I'm going to use you as an analogy because I think it's very key for what I said, okay? So the first things, guys, is like we have to have faith and trust. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm not even talking about, I guess we can talk more spiritual, but like it's just a certainty and an understanding that it's going to work out. We don't know how, we don't know when. Bill used it perfectly in terms of like, hey, I know Joe personally, okay, but I'm signing up for his program. But even though I'm doing these workouts, yes, I'm feeling better. Yes, I'm losing weight. Is it actually helping me with my A1C levels? Once again, Bill said it perfectly. You're never going to know unless you actually go to the doctors. So there's a lot of moving pieces and uncertainty in the midst of that. But regardless, there's a trust, there's a faith, there's a, hey, we're going to find out when the time comes. So the reason why I'm saying that is because I want you guys to have that same faith and trust the next time you're faced with adversity. Because remember, okay, you don't go through challenges, you grow through challenges. And life is always happening for you, not to you. Okay, even those storms, It's always a blessing in disguise, but you need to have faith. You need to have trust that it's going to work out in the end of the day. It's going to be one of your favors. Okay. And here's the reason why. If you don't have that, it's very easy to get what? Negative thoughts. Okay. You are not in control over your very first thought. Let me repeat that so it's very crystal clear. You are not in control over your very first thought. Okay. But you're always in control over your second thought. And the question to you is, are you entertaining that first thought with your second one? Or are you actually fighting back? Are you actually saying, hey, this is a thought that's not coming to serve me? It's coming straight from the pits of hell. I'm going to affirm, I'm going to say something, I'm going to do something about it to stop it into its tracks before that second thought is a bad thought. And then the third thought is a bad thought. And then the fourth thought is a bad thought. And then what do you guys think if we're constantly having negative thoughts, right? What do you think that's going to eventually do to our body? We're going to have what? Negative emotions, negative feelings. It's very hard to work out when you're unmotivated. Well, guess what? You want to know what's also hard to do? Is working out when you're depressed, working out when you have anxiety, working out when you have stress. Nobody likes doing that. It makes it 10 times harder. And if we're digging this hole and we're just making it harder for ourselves, and the next thing you know, we're piling on more stress, more adversity, more doubt and worry because of our own thought patterns, it's going to make it 10 times harder to start to build that momentum to actually start getting ourselves out of that hole. Show of hands, does that make sense? Yeah? Perfect. Okay. So let's go into some actionable steps. Okay. Because I know we're running short on time here. So, three things. Okay. Three simple things. Thanks, Jeff. Three simple things. Okay. The first one, affirmations. Okay. Because remember, you're never in control of your very first thought. You're always in control of your very second thought, though. Bill said it best, honestly. He said, one of my affirmations took the words out of my mouth and didn't even realize it. Okay. So the two affirmations that I want you guys to write down right now, and you guys, it doesn't need to be a memory log or anything like that. It can if you want, but write it down and put it somewhere. Sticky note, reminder, anything like that, okay? The first one is this. I am stronger than my thoughts, and I take action even when it feels hard. Okay? I'm actually going to put that in the chat so that way you guys can see, and I'll repeat that one more time. The second one is what Bill said, which is I don't have to be perfect, but I just need to keep moving forward. So Bill said it best. I just need to keep moving forward. Just like the analogy with your work colleagues, right? Hey, we just got to keep on moving forward, right? So I'm going to put that in the chat for you guys one more time. I am stronger than my thoughts. Okay. Because remember, this is your second thought, guys. This is your affirmation. When you're faced with adversity, you're faced with a storm, you got to remind yourself to say these things. So the first one is I'm stronger than my thoughts. I take action even when it feels hard. And the reason why I like that one personally is because one, it's stating that you're stronger than your thoughts. And you're already feeling, right, these negative thoughts right now. So you're affirming that you're stronger than it. And at the same time, right, you're being the observer. You're saying to yourself, I'm taking action even when it feels hard. You're not ignoring the fact that that stress is easy. You're not brainwashing yourself saying like, oh, this is a blessing in disguise. Like, I get it. Like, I'm just going to still, be optimistic. No, you're stating that it's hard. But what are you doing right before you're stating that it's hard? I take action, right? It's so key. I take action as it's that first initial step. Second affirmation. Let me put in the chat real quick. I don't have to be perfect. I just need to keep moving forward. The reason why this one works so powerfully, guys, is because once again, you're stating that you don't need to be perfect. What do we always say here at Athletics? Progress over perfection. It's sometimes about just being 1% better each and every day as our motto, right? It's about just starting small, building up the momentum. So it's good that you're saying that affirmation that starts with that. But the second part is once again, action, right? I just need to keep moving forward. So you can see both affirmations start off with empowering you, saying like, hey, I got this, right? But then it's an actionable step. What can we do? Because that's the key. If we sit down and we think and think and think, and it's typically negative thoughts, negative thoughts, negative thoughts, we're never going to take action. And we just have to, once again, build momentum. Just like when BP hit the mailbox, right? When he was riding a bike without the training wheels, he didn't go immediately to the top of the hill and say, hey, I'm going to be able to do this again, right? And be perfectly fine with it. No, he put the training wheels back on and started small, building momentum. And you guys got to remind yourself to do exactly the same on your health and fitness journey. Whenever you fall off track, which guess what? It's going to happen. This is where you give yourself grace. You have faith that, hey, it's okay, right? I'm still going to be able to reach my goals. I'm going to trust the process. And then once again, we start telling ourselves the positive affirmations to build momentum so we can start small with the right actionable steps. Okay. The next actionable step for you guys, okay, especially when you're dealing with those negative thoughts. So the first one to recap, right, is those affirmations. The second one is breath work. And the reason why I like this one so much is because it's 3 to 5 minutes. I have certain habits on the app, guys, breath work exercises. In fact, show of hands, who was doing the breathwork challenge? Bill, okay. BP, Brian Malcolm. Brian Malcolm, I'm gonna unmute you real quick, okay? What was your just overall thoughts when we did that challenge?
It was awesome. I mean, I mean, I've had some familiarity with some breath work in the past playing sports. You know, every time I go to the free throw line or go up to bat, I'd do, quick deep breaths. I learned that at a younger age, but trying different breath works based on like, especially when you're feeling like stressed out or after a workout to relax yourself or those different types of things, and just trying different techniques, I felt it was really beneficial.
Yeah, yeah. And so what it does, guys, in case you guys have never done a breathwork exercise before, once again, we have it on a habit on the app. If you want it, send me a message on the app. I'll put it on your account, okay? That storm that you're in right now, guess what? Your mind is playing tricks on you. You're thinking about the future. You're thinking about the past. You're thinking you're not good enough. Your mind is going a million miles per hour. What does breath work actually do? It gets you to homeostasis, right? Which is balance. It gets you to the present moment. You breathe in through your nose, you breathe out through your mouth, you close your eyes. You're not worried about that. You're not thinking about this. You're only focusing on your breath. And then it's a beauty, right? When you do this, because now after just 3 to 5 minutes, guess what? You can actually look at that thought now and say, is this a primal thought or a powerful thought? Is this serving me or not? Is it from the good wolf or is it from the bad wolf? We can then challenge those thoughts, which I'll get to here in a little bit. But we can't challenge a negative thought, right? When we have negative emotions, when we have negative feelings, we're literally playing fire with fire. It doesn't work that way, guys. So we have to do something, affirmations, breath work, right? To just get us back to, once again, relax, calm down. Yes, you're dealing with this stress at work. Yes, you're dealing with the stress at home. Yes, you're dealing with this stress on your health and fitness journey. But right now, if we got to the very basic principle of everything, just in through your nose, out through your mouth, basic breath work, it's okay. Okay. I'm not saying that stuff is not there. It is. But right here, right now, let's get to the present moment. Let's relax. And then let's get our minds clear before we start thinking about the next actionable steps. Okay. Now, the third and final thing to do, this is very, very powerful. Okay. And I highly recommend everybody do it. Girls love this one. Guys hate it, right? Unless you've been on this program for a long time, then you know, hey, you probably have a gratitude journal. Okay. But it's not gratitude. You take out a piece of paper, you write down your thoughts, you write down your feelings. Let's say this happened at work. Let's say this happened at home. Let's say this happened, whatever, at the gym and you got injured. Whatever you're thinking, put it on paper. Okay. And this is what's going to happen when you're feeling these thoughts, you're thinking these, negative emotions, and you're feeling it, whatever the case may be, you put it on paper. What are you doing? You're observing it, right? You can't challenge a negative thought by being in the same arena with it. So instead, step out of the arena, watch the fight, right? And so when you're writing down these negative thoughts, when you're writing down these negative feelings, when you're writing down these negative emotions, and especially after you just collected your breath, right? You're in the present moment, you can then be the observer. You can then look at it and then simply just say to myself, like, okay, hey, why am I feeling this way? Write it down. Is this a powerful state or is it a primal state? Write it down. Primal state, scarcity, right? Urgency, right? Typically fear based. Powerful, you're a creator, right? You're the one that's changing things, right? It's more empowering, okay? So write it down. Hey, how am I feeling right now? Powerful or primal? And then lastly, just ask yourself, right? Based on this one simple, like, negative thought, emotion, is it 100% true? You know, that's it. Is it 100% true? Okay. It's one of these things where you can also write down and ask yourself, and I talked about this with BP. It's like, is this a permanent solution right now or a permanent thing right now? It's like, okay, hey, we're dealing with this stress right now at work. And yes, it sucks right now. I don't like my boss, or I'm not getting paid the best, and it's hard paying the bills. But it's like, is that 100% true? Meaning, like, it's never going to change. Well, no, the reality is like, hey, you can go donate blood or plasma, make some extra money like that. You can go donate some stuff on or sell some stuff on Facebook Marketplace, make some money. You can get a different job. You can work extra hours, right? So when we start looking at it from that perspective, guess what? We're gaining back once again our control. We're gaining back once again, right? Being the observer and challenging it, saying, okay, hey, I can actually do something about this. Because the reality is this: most people, they get so bent out of shape and so stressed about things that's outside of their control. Can you guys agree with me on that one? Right? Typically, we stress out about the things that's completely outside of our realm. But when we actually start dealing with, okay, hey, I'm going to understand that this stress is a blessing in disguise, right? It's happening for me rather than to me. I'm going to have faith and trust in the process that it's all going to work on the end. But for the midst of right now, hey, let me try to capture control over my thoughts, right? Let me try either an affirmation or some breath work just to get back to homeostasis, get a little bit calm. And then why don't we just take out a piece of paper and a pen and just start writing down some of this stuff? Why are we thinking these thoughts? What are these feelings? What are these emotions? Okay. Is this coming from a primal state and how I'm acting and responding, or a powerful state? It's like, okay, and is this 100% true? There's nothing I can do to change it. It's 100% permanent. It's like, typically it's like, no, like it's just a little bump in the road. Okay. We can overcome this. There is some stuff that we can do. What can we do next? Because once again, if we're just thinking from a place of emotions, we're typically going to fall off track, because we're dealing with how can we control something that's outside of our control. And then guess what happens? It's a vicious cycle of getting even more stressed, more negative, more bent out of shape, because we're constantly playing like, well, what if this happens? And what if I do this? And da 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 da. It's these mind games. And it keeps you off track. It keeps you away from being focused towards your goals. It keeps you away from being focused on just striving to be better each and every day. And then we entertain those, we fall off track, downward cycle begins. Let me get your feedback on the overall call, because if you guys remember, we first talked about confidence, but then we realized here, like, confidence only comes from dealing with stress and adversity. And what I just gave you guys was those actionable steps. When you are faced with stress and adversity, what can we actually do to overcome it so that way we can become more confident? It's this whole bridge that I brought you guys on. So, Hannah, overall call feedback.
Overall, I think it's been helpful for me. I mean, and yes, you're right. You took us on the bridge over in the journey, and I mean, I see the tie together.
Good.
So,
Good.
yeah.
Chad, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I would call that a bridge, though. I would call it because you're, in essence, uh, um, you talk about the negative. That's a whirlpool, and in essence, you're creating a positive whirlpool to get yourself into, instead of living in that negative,
Mm.
that negative cycle of always
Yeah.
building on the negative thoughts. So grab that tree branch, stop it, and start getting rid of the negative, and more of a positive mindset.
I love that. That's great feedback. I like what you said also about the whirlpool.
Yeah.
Sherry, what is overall feedback from today's call? Was this helpful or not?
Very, especially because I've been sick this week and Owen's been home, and like literally have done nothing. And starting at the confidence, first of all, shame on me for not being able to like think of some things. Like I really couldn't. It took me a while to be like, oh yeah, this is when I felt it. So I think we need to do that more often, but that comes into play of even the writing it down, the having the positive thoughts. Like, okay, and again, I'm a negative person where it's just like, well, why am I dwelling? How can I spin it? Everything's out of control, or you can't control everything. when we got pregnant with Owen to we didn't have insurance, turned out we didn't have insurance, to him coming early, like we had no control over that. And it was just, I mean, and I think that was one of the few times where we're just like, all right, we just kind of threw up our hands because we knew we couldn't do anything about it. So I like I don't like writing because I have terrible handwriting, and then it's just like, well, what the heck did I just say? But I do know putting it down can get it out of your head, and it's almost like a release sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always use just your phone and notes tab. Um, I love what you said. And I hope you feel better also. I'm going to be doing your check-in here actually here in a little bit after this call. So I'll make sure to keep note. I'm glad that you said that. BP, let's wrap things up with you, man. This has been a double whammy for you with the mindset, calls back and forth. So overall feedback, brother.
This has actually been amazing. I've been in this funk since October and could not figure out how to get out of it or why I was in it. And it was all just a lack of self-confidence,
Yeah.
not knowing how to get back into it. And just kind of what Sherry said, it's like what we talked about earlier today. It's like the basic stuff that we first learned when we started this journey with each other. So it's like, that's the easy stuff.
Yeah.
We can do this. We got this.
And you said it best, right? I know Bill left, but I want you guys to think about that, right? Like, Hannah mentioned about like, hey, we're dealing with this. We're just gonna put one foot in front of the other and just show up, right? And she looked at Chad. When Bill mentioned about his stuff at work, right? He said, hey, we got this. We can just show up. You just said it, right? We got this. And this is why I'm such a big advocate of, hey, you guys wanted the most success inside of our coaching program. Be involved in the community groups, join the coaching calls, right? Like if you're doing it by yourself, Hannah, you mentioned, right? Like the personal stuff, we're always harder on ourselves. So when we're actually involved, right, with team members, right, helping us, right, a community of people that support us, the pressure's off our plates. But remember, it's always that bad wolf, good wolf. And it's always that negative thoughts that tell us, oh, you can't do this, or the comparisism, or, whatever the case may be. We often forget that, hey, everybody else inside the community group, those are our brothers and sisters. They're here to help us. They're here to encourage us. They're here to help us. We just need to learn how to shut up that bad wolf and just go make a post in there saying, hey guys, I need help. The minute we can do that and push the pride and the ego aside, the minute you overcome that battle, and it helps you just get one foot in front of the other to just slowly start building up that momentum, getting right back on track, helping you guys reach your goals, building more confidence along the journey.